The Children of Time and the 13th Sign. Today is December 2nd, and I'm going to speak about Ophiuchus, the snake handler, and why it is not part of the 12 seasonal depictions that we use in Hellenistic astrology. And I'm also going to speak about two different books. One is called The Children of Time, that I referenced when we did the video, Your Golden Compass, which was a wonderful discussion full of love and curiosity, which I think we all should have at this beautiful place and time in the realm. And the Children of Time book, which I read books very quickly, is by an author who, according to him, was manic to write this book. And when I read it, I was like, what is he doing? This is our history. The Children of Time is actually our history, and our history can be found in these books by Solara. This is actually a trilogy called El on Ra, The Healing of Orion. And just yesterday, there was an opportunity for us to understand where we are in this long river with the eddy swirling around this black hole galaxy at 15 degrees Sagittarius. Mars was at 15 degrees Gemini, which is Rigel, which is a key star in the Orion stars and our galactic history. So understanding our galactic history is important because Adrian Tchaikovsky, who has written many books, including Eyes of the Void, does not understand the void. So there's like really important sleight of mind, magical work in his fiction books, which he paints the picture that they're futuristic, and the reviews are, quote, the smartest evolutionary world building you'll ever read. But the thing is that this is our past, and our galactic history has much to do in this black hole loop that goes around and around and around. It has much to do with the healing of the Orion stars and the spider beings that were quite malevolent. Now, in this book, Children of Time, the reason to read this is to absolutely change your worldview on what G-O-D is. A G-O-D, okay? Even in the alien interview, it explained very clearly that if there is a G-O-D, that is certainly then setting up a slavery template, okay? Anything that is above you then therefore makes you a slave. Well, in Children of Time, what was fascinating is the spiders make this thing that's up in the ship their G-O-D, because that G-O-D is giving them tasks or mantras to repeat that have been uploaded into the ship. Now, the consciousness that was the creator being of the spiders no longer has a physical body, so she is actually struggling inside of the ship while artificial intelligence, or the ship's mind, has taken over. So this Children of Time is really, it's a merging of different ideas around that all throughout the galaxy. There are all species of beings that are sentient and conscious, including the spider beings. And it is possible that the spider beings are what has set up this copy, this simulation that we're in, and that those spider beings are conscious and sentient and watching us to see if we can decode the mantras, like in this book, right? The spiders think that they're mantras. If we can decode the simulation and figure out how to get out of here. And I truly do believe that that is what you are meant to do. You're supposed to figure out that you're in a copy or an unsatisfactory imitation. And Jason of Archaics has also said that maybe we're in some kind of a time capsule in which our old system, which I know to be Andromeda, was, he thinks, destroyed. But I happen to know we were yanked out of that system through various fallen angelics and set up in this system, which is geometric and is a system environment that is a simulation of many other galactic cultures. Now, in El-An-Ra, the spider beings are fighting because that's their nature, right? They're coded as predatory. And so they're fighting with other galactics who also have other natures. And so one of my theories of what this simulation is this is where we're working it out. And at the same time, you can't work it out because according to Solara, in some of her books, this just goes on and on. These like galactic wars within simulations will go on and on and on for eons, throughout the eons, until you're done. Until you realize that you should stop fighting. You've already won. Stop fighting. You've already won. The moment you realize that this system environment is just repeating the same galactic wars again and again and again, and you should get out. And I've ordered a book from the Maori people of New Zealand that a client sent to me to show that the knowledge of returning to the void is in our ancient cultures, particularly our original people. That is how they left. Different kinds of what I'm calling the eddy and the long river. They said, okay, I've had enough of this and I'm leaving. The other thing that I've heard from clients recently, and it is kind of depicted in this Children of Time, where there is a time capsule ship that has been traveling for thousands of years with beings in stasis chambers, meaning they're put to sleep, and they are then dreaming various simulations on the ship, although it's not clear in this book that that is what they're doing, but they have to entertain themselves some way. So it's possible that we're just remembering all of these eons, and that all of us are asleep in some stasis chamber. And if that's the case, I'm still going, mutiny, abandon ship, mission impossible, I'm out of here. Which happens in this Children of Time book. There is a mutiny in which the humans in the time capsule are like, okay, we're done. We're just done being put to sleep and used as slaves to repopulate somewhere, sometime. So not this video, but soon I'm going to make a video about the void, but it's very hard to explain to the void because the void, there is nothing there and you don't have senses there. It's when you return from the void that my clients then feel like huge relief and comfort, and even, my experience was like ecstasy and even orgasmic feelings when you come back from that place, because that is your true home. And yet the Children of Time and much of what is going on with simulation theories today is that you can't get out. There's no way to get out. It will end when it ends, and so forth. And I think that all of that is, of course, now that it's gone viral and reaching the mainstream, as I wrote about in my blog yesterday, it's probably going to be used against us to make us think that we can't get out of the simulation and that you're going to stay in this weird sleep state time capsule until it's done. But I would say that the reason that so many books and videos are coming out like that right now is that this is a harvesting hardware. Of course, if you're in some kind of a simulation that's run by the spider beings, which I think is entirely possible from Rigel, then, really you got to decide to get out, because the thing is never going to end. It just goes on and on and on. And what I see now, actually, with the Geo engine earring, is that probably the sky simulation is breaking down. So they have to keep making weather and making seasons, because I have thought for many years here in Vermont that this is not winter. This is a fake winter. And we actually have a cold research lab in Lyme, New Hampshire, right across the Connecticut River, that makes weather. And I had a client that worked there for years, and it is like a high security, fenced, barbed wire place, because they know how to make weather. So in a simulation, it can break down. The other thing that we will start to see is gender identity, as I've spoken before, is breaking down. So then they have to create narratives around that. And in the blog, which I would really like you to read at galacticshamanastrologers.net, I just wrote it yesterday. And again, there is stuff in there that I can't say in videos. One of my clients said, well, what happens when these cataclysms happen and they repopulate? How do they repopulate the system environment? Well, I shared a video about the Cabbage Patch Kids by Mind Unveiled, and Mind Unveiled then followed up with a whole movie. The first movie ever made in 1892 or 1896 or something was a silent film, black and white, by a woman who was getting babies from a cabbage patch, and it was like an advertisement of how to get your baby. So that goes into well, then who are we, and what are we? If so many of us were from those orphan families and put on orphan trains and then made to work in mines, which, by the way, is a history that I know from the people of Pennsylvania, were that the coal miners of Pennsylvania were often from orphan families and started very young working in those mines. Okay, so that leads me to what I call non-source players, or what actually Jason of Archaics in his November 30th question and answer, end of the month question and answer, if you go at 20 minutes to 37 minutes in his video of the end of November question and answer, this is Archaics. Jason does a great job of explaining he calls them player characters. I've always called them non-source players, but I guess in the gaming world, they're called non-player characters. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the beings that you see here are technology motivated narrative upholders who were created what I'm going to call as the incubator babies and the Cabbage Patch Kids. And they're not necessarily ensouled, and there seems to be several types of them. We know that the Leviathan race was an AI group, and there's new AI groups being made all the time, but basically they're narrative upholders. And this gets tricky to talk about this, but not everybody's real. And I would say when friends say to me, there's nobody to talk to, you can't talk to anyone about this, because when you do talk to him, there's a blank look on the face. That's a narrative upholder. And I live in a town of 5,000 people, so I'm just going to say this, there's only one or two what I'm going to call organic beings in about 5,000 bodies that are here. So if you can't accept that, just listen to Jason's description, because he really understands what a non-player character is, or what I call it a non-source player. So anyways, I have to move right along here because my disk is getting full on my computer again. Please read my blog and watch some of the videos that I've asked you to read. Before you book a session with me, it's important to know where I am with this. So the other thing I want to talk about is we are about to move on December 4th into the snake handler Ophiuchus. The reason that Hellenistic astrology does not use that sign is that's the sign of the master. And I've spoken about this and written about Ophiuchus before. The snake handler is the 13th constellation, and I always use it as fixed stars because that happens to be my stars. My sun is conjunct the snake handler Ophiuchus. So the master constellation Ophiuchus is not used in Hellenistic astrology. And Jason just like 4 hours ago did an amazing 13-minute video about the 13th sign and how there was actually something that happened, that we had a matriarchal culture, something happened, and then a star exploded, possibly from the Pleiades. And then we had the 12 signs, and the 13th sign was taken out of the zodiac. And that is at the same time when it was introduced that a Christ consciousness was here. Now, Jason also is asked a question about whether Mary Magdalene existed or whether this person named Jesus existed. And he really artfully, with all the references, and I've given many references on this also, they said there is no historical figure Jesus, there is no historical figure Mary Magdalene. There is a Christ consciousness archetype, which is written about, and then the Romans made it a death cult and said that this person was sacrificed, which then puts the sacrifice template into our society of you should martyr and stay in this weird simulation and keep playing the game here again with all these weird non-player characters showing up and possibly assaulting you to traumatize you and keep you in the cycle. They're kind of like machine elves, but they're appearing in the third dimension, and they can appear at any time when you have valuable knowledge coming forth and you need to be messed with, which is why I don't even go out anymore. Like I was thinking, Claude still goes out to the athletic club. I don't even go out anymore because I have been assaulted by the non-player characters, and I know just what they are. I absolutely know what they are. So the 13th sign is like the Last Supper artwork, where there are 12 disciples sitting down and one master standing up. That is because the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, is the sign of mastery. So we're going to move in where the snake, it's the fixed star of the snake is spelled Alweid, Alwed. Alwed appears as like the draconic star on December 4th. And by December 10th, which happens to be my solar return, you get the snake handler fully handling the snake. Now you can think about the snake also as the long river, that when you get a hold of this long river and realize that you're in a simulation and there are more than one simulation going throughout the galaxy, but that your job is to find out what it is and possibly not just leave it, but collapse it. So I feel like the other thing, if you understand the consciousness that was called the Christ, his consciousness, even according to the Voyager's material, was about exiting people from this place. So that's my consciousness too. Let's exit. Let's collapse this whole simulation. So that is Ophiuchus, the 13th sign, which, you know, the whole Advent thing and then the alleged birth of a Christ was at the end, December 25th, when the stake handler is finished. Well, there is no historical person, Jesus, that was born at this time of year. They're referring to the 13th constellation. That is the mastery constellation of Fuchsius. So that's why there are only 12 signs, because those 12 signs are the disciples who are studying here. And what are you studying? You're studying how to get out and collapse this matrix, because there are many of them. And I'm not sure that we need to keep doing these weird intergalactic wars that are explained in El-An-Ra. There is no healing of Orion. There is just this cycle that goes around and around and around and around. And we're supposed to collapse it. So the other and last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is that I find it very interesting that in the 800 pages of the volume 2 of Voyagers, which I read also quite quickly, the very small percentage of the population, like apparently 92%, are going to be in some kind of another phantom matrix, and those are being harvested right now. And only 8% are on what is called a bridge project. She doesn't say, or whoever is talking to her doesn't say that they're on a planet. What she says, Ashana Dean, says that they're on a bridge project, which then tells me that we're in some kind of a simulation that is trying to bridge some of us to where? To where? To me, I keep getting this message like abandon ship, Mission Impossible, collapse the whole thing, okay? And because you're an immortal spiritual being, as I said, you are not this physical body. You are an immortal spiritual being in what the magicians call the pre-geometric void. So again, that book is under my computer, but I have another friend who's reading all the magicians' books too. It's the pre-geometric void. Just means the void, where before any of the geometries that capture souls exists, you are definitely from the void. We are all from the void, and none of us are from here. So how about that for a video? The Children of Time and the 13th sign. And I'm not going to do a book club on the Children of Time because there is way too much sorcery in that book about how the void is cold and different things that are really our past and not our future. If you want to read it, please do, because then you'll totally lose your weird idea of what this God thing is. It's absolutely hysterical in that way. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope to do a very concentrated video on the feeling that I receive when I come back from the void, because remember, the void itself is a place of absolute silence and nothingness. Okay? Bye-bye for now.